Well, it's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out today. I'm looking forward to getting into your story.
Thanks. It's great to meet you as well.
So, before we get into your life as a writer and victims of virtues, I want to know first and foremost, one of the things that has really kind of shaped our reality lately was living through that pandemic, the COVID-19 time period.
Yes.
How many waves and reverberations did that time period create that is still a part of your reality now?
Oh, that's a really good question. Um, Being in Canada, right? Like we went hard on the
Yeah,
lockdowns and the strict measures. So that aspect on a personal level, I found it beneficial.
yeah,
My one son is autistic. So he was in the school system, but with the school shutting down, he came home. And I was able to work with him, and he progressed leaps and bounds being at home with the one-on-one activities
yeah.
and interactions with me. And we went from him not being able to read, him being very socially awkward, to you couldn't tell if he is or is not autistic for the
Wow,
most part now.
wow.
He's still got that, he stares off into the distance thing, but interacting, no. And he can read, and he's brilliant in math now. So like in those aspects, it was fantastic. And had it not happened, I never would have been able to work with him because I wouldn't have even given it thought that that would make or break the difference for him.
Yeah,
So in that aspect, it was fantastic. And
sure.
then it also, on a more like me level, it opened my eyes to a lot,
Yeah.
like the level of control that was enacted between government and social media and how they just clamped down fast and hard. I was pretty surprised.
Yeah. You know, that is probably one of the most uplifting stories I've heard about the COVID time period. My son's on the autism spectrum. He actually just turned 20 the other day. So he was firmly in his teenage years, and I've never heard a story. Very infrequently have I heard stories that, an autistic child's been pulled out and flourished so much. So that is so hopeful. Um, I know that Miles had some friends early on in his life where parents decided to homeschool and it was a godsend.
Yeah.
But Miles is on the spectrum, so they're all different. You know what they say with
Oh, yeah.
autism. If you meet one kid with autism, you meet one kid with autism, that kind of a thing, right?
Absolutely.
So it's that. But so let's get to the heart and soul of what you do. I know as an author, that's really what we're touching base with, but I just want to get a kind of a handle on if I put you in front of a bunch of grade school kids right now, it's career day, and one of the kids says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
I would say, hi, I'm Miss P because I work in the education system.
Yeah. Okay. So let me ask you this. What did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream to grow up and become?
I didn't have one,
Okay.
to be completely frank.
Yeah.
My childhood was very chaotic and traumatic. So I really didn't, there was no future outlook for me. It was
Yeah.
very day to day.
How did you get away from that? How did you heal yourself and get to a point where you were able to write a book, to come to grips with it, and how did that happen?
A lot of work.
Yeah.
Like truthfully, it has to be deliberate and it has to be conscious. And that is what the whole book is about. Is the beginning portion, I go into my story, and it's only from age 0 to 19. I'm writing a second book for the later parts of my life. But in the beginning, I've experienced all of the different forms of abuse and oodles of it. And then I had exposure to the drug world. I had exposure to domestic violence, not within my own home, but exposure nonetheless, and all kinds of horrible exposures. So then, as I aged, I became depressed. That would be the right term for it, and isolating myself and chaotic in my own head is what it was. And then I started to spiral bad, and that's when I went into the suicidal ideations. And I had come up with a plan. I knew what I was going to do. I was this is this is going to happen because I am done suffering. And that was the only thought. It wasn't anything beyond I'm done suffering.
Yeah.
And I had one friend online, and I wanted to take a moment to talk to that person and let them. I wasn't going to tell them my plan by any means, but I wanted to let them know when they did find out that I appreciated them and what they had done for me in the years prior, because we had been speaking for quite a few years up to this point. And that conversation is actually what sent me off on the trajectory of healing,
Wow.
because he allowed me the time to speak. And then he reminded me that I am valuable. And I have no idea why the conversation took the turn it did that night, other than God's grace.
Yeah.
But he had let me know that he enjoyed my company and he appreciated my conversations and reminded me that I was a person and I'm important to other people, which that had really slipped my head. Like there was no, it's not even, it's hard to put into words, but it wasn't an idea of, oh, I'm going to cause pain to anybody if I end my life. Like that didn't even enter the mind. It
Yeah.
was just, I need to end my own suffering.
Yeah.
That was as far as the thinking went. So when he brought up these points of he values my opinions, he values my perspective, he values me as a human, it was like a light bulb went off.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, wait a minute. So, yeah, let's think about that before I go diving down a darker path. And then him and I started talking regularly. And I've started to let out my secrets because I had held everything in.
Yeah.
I didn't share anything with anybody for what, 16 years? Everything was mum's the word, right?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
So by letting it out, that started to bring like true relief, which then I'm older, right? So we didn't really have the internet when I was young.
Yeah.
But at that point, the internet had really started to take off, which allowed me to start researching psychology. And that's what I was doing and pretty much diagnosing myself
Yeah.
and then deliberately redirected my thinking. Every time I would start in with negative thinking, I would have to consciously combat it and redirect into a more positive, reality based thinking pattern. It took years, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
but it worked.
So how did you survive that process of having to rehash your life to write this book? How hard was it to start and stop? What was that process like?
That's many years,
Yeah.
many years. When I was younger, like I said, I found the internet, right? Like that started to become a thing. So I realized that it was PTSD that I was dealing with.
Yeah.
That was the actual problem. And this was all self-diagnosis. I had reached out for help, but there was no help to be found, which kind of, sucks, but it is the reality and it still is today. So once I realized that and I started doing the retraining of my brain, I started taking challenges. Once I got comfortable with, okay, now I've got my thinking good, I'm going to challenge myself and I'm going to try and be friends with guys. And then once I was comfortable with that, a year or so later, then I'm going to challenge myself to be a bartender. And yet again, I would slowly work through that and then next challenge. And I've just used it as a series of challenges. And I challenge all of my issues that I had developed in different defense mechanisms that I had created, and slowly but surely was able to overcome them all.
So being a parent of a special needs child, you're talking to
Mm-hmm.
someone that understands what that's like. I'm very involved and I get it. How did living through what you've been through in your life prepare you to have this strength and positive outlook to pass on to your child?
I have literally walked through hell and walked right back out the other side of it. So I have the patience, I have the understanding, the compassion, the empathy, but I also have the know-how to say enough. Like
Yeah.
you need to bend. because the world isn't going to flex to you. Sometimes you need to flex to the world. It's a two-way street here, my guy.
Yeah.
So it's those types of things.
Who's been a hero for you? Who's been that bedrock for you to continue to find strength and to accomplish what you've done in your life?
Um, that's a tough question. I don't honestly think I have a specific hero.
Okay.
I've
I,
turned inward a lot and I've turned to um, God, the universe, whatever word you want to use,
sure.
a lot.
Yeah. What is your motivation every day to wake up and to do the work that you do as a parent, as a professional, as a human? What is that collective energy for you every day to look forward to waking up?
Advocacy.
Yeah.
It's that's pretty much what my entire life is about. That's what the book is for. It's all based on advocacy because I know what it is to suffer. And I truly do on a level that most will never, and luckily never experience. I enjoy helping people to avoid that. And I can see people when they are suffering, and I reach my hand out to help them. But I advocate, and I advocate nonstop.
So the one thing about going through horrific things in your life is that there's circumstances and people that are a part of that. But when you get to a
Yeah.
point where you're stronger and you've healed, there's this natural conclusion that there's a level of forgiveness that can happen. Has that been a part of your story? Have you gotten to a point of forgiving?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Actually, I talk about that in the book. It's almost like a pillar. Like on your healing journey, forgiveness is a pillar to it. You have to for it'll start with you have to forgive yourself for whatever it is that you hold yourself accountable for, that that I could have done this, I should have done that. By holding on to those ideas, you're just holding yourself back because truthfully, in the moment, whenever said traumatic event happened, if you could have done that, you would have. But in that exact moment, you did what you could do, and that's what you did, right?
Yeah.
Like there is no wiggle room there. And people, they get really stuck on the I could have, I should have, and it causes them to dwell. And then that dwelling prevents the healing process from moving forward. But once you get over that healing yourself portion, then it gets more difficult because you have to forgive the situation. And that's the part that a lot of people are, it's counterintuitive. Why would I forgive this person or so on and so forth? They hurt me. But if you don't forgive them, then you're just hanging on to that resentment. You're hanging on to that anger and you use it as a shield. Whether you realize it or not, it is a shield. And you pull it up every time you think you're going to get hurt or could get hurt, or somebody says something that causes that defense mechanism to snap into place. But if you can forgive the situation, I'm not saying go up to said bad guy and be like, I forgive you, person. Not at all. This is all like an internal
Yeah.
piece. But if you can forgive the situation, then those barriers will start to break down. And that's the scariest part for somebody who's gone through trauma because those barriers went up to protect you.
Yeah.
That's the whole reason you create defense mechanisms. But those barriers are also preventing you from moving forward.
Yeah.
They're preventing you from allowing the true breadth of joy and love to enter in because you have numerous different walls. So, yeah,
What has
forgiveness,
been
it's a heck of a journey. Go
Yeah,
on.
it
Sorry.
certainly is. No, no, you're fine. No, I was going to ask you, what's been one of the best fan letters or responses you've gotten from your book so far?
I would say the one that had advised all parents, guardians to read the book because that is the purpose in it. It's read the book, understand what it's like to have a child who has gone through all kinds of trauma, and how good they are at hiding it, because that's the key. A lot of parents, they don't realize that it's even happened, and it's no fault of their own. Like I hold no ill feeling towards my mother, none at all. She had no idea it was happening at all. So with that, she also couldn't intervene or help. She was just left going, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
As I slowly started to spiral out of control. But even still, I wasn't offering up anything, right? Like I'm not outing anything, I'm not saying anything. So she can't help. She has no idea what's going on. But in the book, I lay out very clearly my path and how it all happened and the way you end up hiding it. And it's when it, like in my particular case, each case is obviously going to be different. But in my particular case, I was molested as a child, but it started when I was like 3 or 4 years old. So by the time I'm 6, 7, 8, it's normalized. Like it's not, oh, this bad thing is happening. It's this is normal. This is part of my everyday life. So there is no behavioral change that's going to happen because this is just like going and getting a glass of water.
Yeah.
What do you mean? This isn't normal, right? Like, and that's a piece that a lot of people don't realize, and that's how children fall through the cracks. So yeah, it would be that one, the person advising all parents to read the book because the story aspect really does open people's eyes to the journey. And then the second half is different. That's not the story. That's a different area.
So are there apprehensions going in and writing the next book because you're going to have to again kind of put up the mirror and confront things that have been difficult in your life, or is this different now because it's the next half of your life?
It's nope. The second half of my life, I went ahead and I face planted good and hard.
Yeah.
Just, oh, I got this. And then bam, it's good
Yeah.
times. No, I don't have a problem writing it. I really have healed. I I like I said, I'm old now, right? So I'm not, super old, but
Yeah.
I'm getting
Right.
there.
I get it.
But the my 20s, my 20s were rough.
Yeah.
But again, I came to terms with that. Like I did this exact same path again. When I realized that I had gone and stepped in another hole, I had to pull myself out of it. I remained single for 7 years. It was 7 years that all right, we gone and stepped in it again. Let's work on ourselves and start the healing journey. And that's what I did. But because of that, and because of the continuous active attention to the details, I don't really have the the issues that other people have. Like I don't have the victim mentality issue. I hold myself personally accountable for quite a bit of it. Like from earlier when I said my mom had no idea.
Yeah.
Well, to a degree that is going to fall on my shoulders because I was the one that never said anything.
Yeah.
Now, it's a finicky balance, right? Obviously I was a child, so I'm not responsible for what happened by any means. But as I aged, I still never said nothing.
Yeah.
That does fall on me. So holding yourself personally accountable is a humongous piece in the battle to healing and climbing out of that hole and that steady victim mentality. It's pervasive. Like it intertwines into your life and then it starts popping up all over the place.
Yeah. So with all of the healing you've been through, being a mother of a special needs child, your book, your advocacy, all of these things that you've evolved into at this point, when you look back on all of it, what are you ultimately the proudest of?
Being a mom,
Yeah.
hands down,
Yeah.
any day of the week. I absolutely love being a mom.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, right now, on this day in 2024, everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, everyone that reads your book, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I am a hard ass. That's what I am. I'm a hard ass. I have expectations and I have blunt honesty. So I'm not the person you're going to go to be coddled, but I am definitely the person you're going to go to if you truly are looking for help, because I will tell you the truth of the situation and I will guide you to the right services because I do know what they are in, at least in my region. Obviously, I don't know for your region, but
Yeah.
I could even still guide in the right direction. But I am definitely a hard ass and I hold myself to a higher standard than I do most people.
So, Victims of Virtue is your book. If anyone wants to pick up a copy, if they're inspired and want to reach out, or if they want to keep up with anything that you got going on or look into your life more, where is the best place to go?
Victims of Virtue is available on Amazon globally. And then to connect with me would be X.
This has been wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for talking about your story, and it's fascinating. There's so much going on, so I appreciate you taking a
Yeah.
minute out today. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.